Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the opening of A.Martinez's in La Casa de Maná. Alyssa, I'm so happy to have you here. I'm so happy to have been working with you these weeks developing the show. And I'm so happy to welcome the North Park Orchestra to play a few pieces in sort of collaboration and celebration of the event, of the reception. And we're happy to have you here. So after they play three arrangements, we'll have a brief talk with Alyssa, after which you can ask some questions. So thank you all for joining us, and let's hear from the orchestra. Thank you all for being here. Okay.
Thank you. We'll play three pieces. The first one was composed by Arcangelo Corelli, somewhere in Italy, and then the other two pieces are folk dance melodies. The second one is from Korea, and the third one is from Mexico, Latin America.
if it's okay with you, we can now hear from Alyssa. Is there time for you to stay? Or
Yeah, some will stay. Yeah.
okay.
They're
So
eager to learn.
I just don't want it to be disruptive one
No,
way or
not at
another.
all.
Okay. So let's welcome Alyssa here. So we can use or not use the microphone.
I can talk loud enough.
We're going to be okay. Okay, so if everybody wants to come into the room, after the talk, you're welcome to pick up one of the booklets in either space. And then also there's some prompts for some interactive pieces, which you can see there's already been lots of participation there. There's an audio piece that you can hear from two headphones there, and an audio piece which I'll start again once the talk is over in the gallery space. So I'm so excited to bring Alyssa to North Park, and this show has just been a real treat to watch develop since visiting your studio like last year, right?
Yeah, that's all I do.
So it's just totally come to life in many ways, and I'm really thrilled that you're here. So thanks so much for sharing the work with us, and I hope you'll continue to read about it and engage as it's up through mid-December, and then we'll hear from you directly, whatever you'd like to say, and we'll open it up for questions after that. So welcome.
All right, thanks. So I think that I would like to just read the poem that is in the show. Just to preface that and the show, this work has come out of my journey to stay close to people who have that I've lost in my life. So I do a lot of work around grief, around remembering. My dad passed away when I was a teenager, and I feel like a lot of my life has been spent chasing his memory, chasing our time together, and trying to keep that relevant in my life. But what has come out of that is a really beautiful journey to collect and discover and learn about my family, about my heritage, and also the work that comes out of that is when I am doing that work, then I get to share that with people who are also grieving and missing and remembering people that they love, and so we get to share in that together when we have an opportunity to do that. So I'm so grateful that Emily asked me to do the show. It's my first solo show. I've been working on this project. Thank you. I've been working on this project for some years, but I, haven't had an opportunity to kind of, pull it together to, present it. It's kind of just been behind closed doors and things that I'm thinking about and working on. So it was really fun, and it pushed me a lot to have to get something together that was cohesive and to present from what I've been working on. So I hope that you'll enjoy the show. A lot of this is things that I've collected, some paintings, items, scarves and photos that remind me of my grandmother's house and her memory. So this poem is written about the last time that I have a very big Dominican family, and this is the last time that we were all at her apartment, where she immigrated in like the 70s and lived in Brooklyn for until she passed. So it's called Bedford and South First. 1. Altagracia, Senora, Mama, Grandma Tata. The matriarch sits slouched at the table, watches the cooking channel, her chin in hand and her back a mountain from years of this posture. She serves us, but never sits when we eat rice and beans and lettuce so crispy and light, drizzled with olive oil. But now that we are finished, she is resting in front of the TV. She, of few words, points to the onions sizzling in the TV pan. Her skin is black walnut, thick like hide but soft as touch. She holds my hand like the child I am even now and says, "Yo te bendigo. Dios te bendiga." I don't think I believe in God, but her prayers swaddle me. Every night she prays the rosary. We, her livelihood. She, the pious. A crooked dark finger lifts over each bead for one of us. Her face a woodcut carved with the same expression, the weight of caretaking, 8 children, 25 grandchildren, 37 great-grandchildren, and now 2 great-great-grandchildren. Through this, her capacity to love grown. She rarely smiles. She is smiling at me when I arrive. She is smiling at my son when she meets him for the first time. Though he is dead, she is smiling at my father, her youngest son, through us. We have spent so many hours here. 2. I stood limply on the roof. This the last time I was ever at her house. When we, the cousins, were young, ran up the stone stairs, teasing the roof, the piss and graffiti interior, our parents yelling below to stay off. Today I stood in each room and soaked as much of it into my skin as I could. These things cannot be captured by photograph. Even this poem is not the vessel. I studied the yellow walls, these piles of papers and bedding, sterilites stacked to the ceiling, some porcelain figurine from one of the cousins' sweet 16s. Everything will be thrown out, my aunt told me, except the mattresses, which would make their way down to the DR. There are photos on the wall cinematic in their age, airbrush softness. One of Mama as a young woman, with that same solemn brow. Darkest ink for her unblemished skin. One of a man, perhaps my grandfather, though I am not sure and I never asked. I know it wasn't true, but couldn't help to think that they meant to throw these out too. 3. First time I remember coming to New York, I am 4 and it is hard to be there. We take the train. I, caressing my Barbie, still puke in the front middle seat of my aunt's car. My eyes can't see the street below, and the December snow is more beautiful like this. I am furious everyone says my name wrong. How could we really be family? I watch them boil water to bathe in, and I am wholly taught with objections to this, to them. We leave our shoes on, rinse cups from the cupboard before we drink. 4. I stood quietly on the roof. We transmute to ashy silhouettes in the orange setting sun. Below Brooklyn terrain, buildings erect the new hipster Tetris. One courtyard below has a fortress-style perimeter. To what end? My auntie's always telling me to watch my purse when I go out in Williamsburg, a remnant of when they first arrived here. Things are different now. Yes, I wanted something better for my grandmother. I wanted her not to live in a home that draped precariously above her. Yes, they took their money, but for decades, why the molded, crumbling bathroom, the night rat she housed in the kitchen, the hyperbolic crack dividing the drywall ceiling. You'll move in here with new floors and no holes to speak of, you piece of shit. I hope you enjoy her home. 5. Slowly we all begin to arrive. We from Chicago, some from Cleveland, Torrington, the Bronx, and some from a few blocks away. Some of the cousins have spent all day drinking Heineken together, or that saccharine booze in styrofoam cups you can purchase on the street. Always around town listening to bachata so loud, the music dissolving ammunitious in the air. We gather in Mama's apartment. Each of us gives a kiss and asks for her blessing. I drink a beer as they're passed around. More arrive, and the room now saturated with side conversations, the television, the radio. A few squawk into their phones. Some dance and embrace the babies passed around. Our almond eyes shared. Our skin, a rainbow of browns. Braids, weaves, waves, curls, and hair brushed back so tight it lifted the face. This, the family. And this, the last time here together. All 5 aunties sit judiciously against the wall of the room. They take turns holding their grandchildren and grandnieces and nephews, take turns arguing lovingly and laughing. One buzz cousin accuses, "Mama should not have to move," and the rest of us silent. Why are you taking her away from us? She imputes what we do not have the courage to. But today, the second youngest great-grandchild receives a blessing from Mama. We gather around them. Mama sprinkles bottled water on a leggy sprig of basil, flings it around at the baby, the room, at us. As she prays, we giggle drunkenly as the droplets hit 24 umber faces in April. This joy is an alternate funeral, one in which we are no longer the cared for, but hope is made by shedding. Asher, this is my child. What's your question?
Who was the kid who was being blessed that day?
It was your cousin.
Which one?
I'm forgetting his name right now.
I have
It's my cousin.
cousins.
It's my cousin. What's his name? I can't remember. It's my I have like a bajillion cousins. It's my cousin Evelyn's son.
I also have a bajillion.
Well, yeah, because you're my kid. Yeah. So it wasn't you. You were the third youngest great grandchild at that point.
What are the significance of the plants in your exhibit?
I think that I've been trying to combine a lot of my different practices. So I have a lot of plants at home. I collect stuff. I forage a lot. And I think a lot about, my family's home in the Dominican Republic and just how lush it is. So I've been trying to just incorporate them for, like ambiance. It's not necessarily the exact plants that are there, but just giving, like in this painting, the photo that I painted it from, they're standing under a lot of plants that are under there. So I just had an idea to kind of add some real life plants into it. And I like the way that you have to care for living things within a show. So I think that it adds an element of care that feels nice to have to do. Like every time I show this, I have to add new cuttings, so those are actually in water in the back and stuff like that. So yeah.
Are the framed images serigraphs or screen printed or something like that?
They're actually just printed onto transfer. They came out really nice, and I printed them for another idea, and then I was like, oh, these, it was kind of an experiment, and then I liked the way they came out, so wanted to include them. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm just intrigued by this idea of plants being stand-ins for other plants that aren't here, but it's a proxy for other things. And some of the objects are the thing, right? They are your grandmother's scarves. They are the authentic thing. And some of the objects are stand-in for those objects. But everything's sort of a stand-in for some other experience, right? Like another experience, a loved one or a memory, or the loved one themselves, right? So I'm really I don't think that there's a specific question here, but just, I'd love to hear more about the process of just the arranging of the objects, like how you chose what you chose, and in the process of setting it up and putting things where they are, almost in a ritualistic altar manner. I wonder sort of that process for you, like that kind of alchemy, and where you might have encountered it more strongly.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, I kind of collect a lot of things, so it's it kind of came out of a desire to incorporate things that like I already have just laying around, and I was like, why don't I use this? Like, so for the scarves, for instance, you know, my grandmother would always, but both my grandmothers, but this specific grandmother, like I would like look at something and she'd be like, oh, do you want that? You know, like that grandma like urge to be like, just take it, take the blankets off my bed, you know, like I can tell that you complimented them. So she, this one day like gave me like 10 of these scarves that I have a hard time getting rid of things, especially if they're sentimental, and so I've just like had these scarves in my house for like 15 years or something. And you know, I've been trying to, like I said, experiment more with these things. Like I take a lot of pictures, I collect a lot of things, and I've been trying to see it as, you know, not just, you know, the things that I hoard, but like, you know, like maybe they have a purpose that I can bring them out to use them for something. So I've been trying to be more, I don't know, inclusive of that, you know, reality. And then for the placing, I mean, I think that I do a lot of this in my house, you know, so it, you know, it's like I think a lot about, you know, like I said, I collect little things, so I have them all over my house.
Yeah, you're really good at placing them like specifically.
Thank you.
In a place.
Thank you. Yeah, but so
when you're like, can you just get this specific thing for me? I'm like, yep, it's right here.
yeah, I know. Everything has a place, and I know where it is. Thank you. But yeah, so it's, I mean, I have a lot of jars of things, a lot of fabrics just things that I like to look at, and, you know, I believe that things hold, you know, they hold power and they hold memory and all that. So this show was a fun opportunity to bring it out and, you know, share it with more people, which feels nice, you know, because I like when people see it in my house, but it's nice to bring it out. And yeah, I mean, you know, some of these things, like this scene over here is actually like a kind of a recreation of my grandmother's porch at her house in the Dominican Republic. So, you know, I'm just thinking, even the portraits I do, everything feels like an intimate way of being with the memories. So pulling things out of it, whether it be a color or a photo or, you know, a pattern or sound, and then it's a ritual of remembering for me to stay connected with my.
Rituals.
It's a ritual of remembering to stay connected with my, you know, the people that I'm not seeing all the time, or the memories that I have like an anxiety about forgetting things, I think. So.
Do you see it as like an ancestor veneration practice?
You know, I feel like I've thought about that more recently, that it is a way to bring ancestors into the room with me. And I think, you know, it's as much in a selfish way as it is in a, like, you know, now I think about it as I do this collaborative work and this social practice around remembering, that I see that it's so nice to have an opportunity for all of us to talk about, to be invited to, like, you know, say your grandmother's name, you know, or say a memory, you know, because we don't always have a chance to do that when people have passed. So I would say it's like a little bit of both, because I have, you know, my grandmother's, I just did another piece on my grandmother's, and They never got to visit me in Chicago, so it felt really special to like be able to bring them into the room and like, you know, show everyone their faces and talk about them, and you know, it makes me feel proud to, you know, be bringing them to my life here. So.
Is there something you wish you could have asked your grandmother?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wish I could have learned more about her life growing up, you know? So her birthday was on Sunday, November 9th, and she passed away when she was 101 and a half. So she was born in Santo Domingo in like 1919 or something, or 1918, I think. So just like I'm so curious about like what that experience was, you know, with her life, because, you know, this again has been like a really nice chance to ask my family more specific questions, because they're not like the type of people that just disclose stories, you know, for I think a number of reasons, but it's just not, they're not that type of people to be like, when I was young, you know, X, Y, Z. So I had to, you know, I had to be very deliberate about asking them about stuff. So there's a lot of things with my dad or my grandma that I just never thought to ask them before. But yeah, I guess you know, I'm curious about what, you know, her experience growing up was, and also coming to the States. As I think she was 50 when she moved, and just like what that experience was like for her, you know.
Oh yeah, I also experienced grief. I lost 4 of my grandparents, I lost my mom, and I lost my cousin.
Oh,
yeah, so I know how it feels.
Yeah, I'm sorry for your loss. Everyone's lost somebody, you know, so I hope that you're able to connect with your people and feel supported and remember them.
I'm just curious about another aspect of like the plants in your exhibit. So, first of all, I just love seeing them. I think they're beautiful, and it just adds like an element of like life and character, like you said. But I think when you're talking about like the anxiety of like forgetting things and forgetting memories, like I feel like plants are also kind of very temporary thing in terms of like, well, especially in like an exhibit, but like they live and they kind of, you know, either you have to replace them exhibit or all those things. And I'm wondering, was that intentional to like kind of symbolize that, like the plants being temporary in terms of like memories fleeting?
That's a really good question. I don't know if it was like explicit when I started doing that, but I did, you know, realize that I make, again, like even at my house, I'll like collect little wildflower bouquets, and if you do that, it's like, you know, that they only last like, you know, wildflowers are not meant to last, so it's like you can keep them for like 12 hours, and then they're usually like too wilted, and you have to, you know, put them away. But, you know, creating temporary moments, you know, so this does feel like a temporary moment, because if I ever present this again, it won't look the same, you know.
But
Might be
those
different
plants
plants.
are pretty old.
Yeah, but I might not use those plants specifically in that way, or, you know, I mean, you know, as much as I try to keep these cuttings alive behind the painting, it's not, you know, it's not set in stone that they will. I've had a lot of dead cuttings the last few times I've presented this, so yeah, no, it definitely, I see that connection where, in the same way that memories are kind of fleeting, I'm just kind of like grabbing little things and, you know, putting them together for this moment, you know. So this, even though there are like specific pieces in this show, you know, all of it, including like the participatory aspect, are very fleeting. It's just for here now, and then, you know, I'll never get all of these answers again if I ever do that again. So yeah, thanks for noticing that.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alyssa.
And if I could say one last thing, so like Emily said, everyone's invited to come over to the table. I kind of recreated my grandmother's kitchen table, And I invite you to sit down, listen to the poem. There's these little prompts that you can do and put it up.
Over there.
Over there, thank you. And we have some of the butter cookies that are always filled with other things. There's actually those cookies that we need to eat today, because then I'm going to put it on the table and fill it with other stuff. So please partake in the cookies, and yeah, please come up if you have any other things that you want to ask or chat about, or tell me about your grandmother. I would love to hear. So thank you.
Why is do the grand
It is like, I do feel like, getting a chance, like, doing